Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. One of my favorite things about college football is that it's never too early to start looking ahead. And that's exactly what we're doing today, bringing you our way too early top 25 poll for this upcoming 2020 season. A video and poll that I'm sure will spark no discussion or debate whatsoever. So as always, make sure you leave in the comments below who you think should be in this top 25. Who is ranked too high? Who is ranked too low? Who is ranked that shouldn't be? Who should be in? Who should be out? We want to hear from you. That is the beauty of college football. And that's the beauty of these way too early top 25 polls, is that they mean absolutely nothing. They're fun to discuss, they're fun to debate, but in the end we won't have any clarity on this until August when the first AP poll is released. But without further ado, let's jump right on into it. We'll start up here with number one and just work our way down. And number one is the Clemson Tigers, and that really should not come as a major surprise to many. It's not LSU, and we'll touch on that in a second, not the reigning national champions, and we'll, like I said, address that. But we look at Clemson, guys. Trevor Lawrence is back, and I think a major reason that they deserve to be number one right now is just the shocking decision of Travis Etienne to return for one more year in Death Valley. One more year with Dabo Swinney and the Tigers. He wants a championship, guys. He wants to win one more title with Clemson. Not many people thought he'd be back, one of the better running backs in the entire country, but that automatically gave Clemson a huge boost offensively. They're still going to have an elite core of wide receivers, and the defense with Brent Venables, regardless of who they are losing or getting, is always going to be one of the best in the entire country. So Clemson, to me, the number one team in the country right now, and should remain that way until they are dethroned in the regular season. They can get dethroned in the postseason, as we saw, but their toughest game in 2020 is probably a road game at Notre Dame. Until the ACC can get more competitive, it is Clemson's to lose. Right below them, we have Ohio State. Justin Fields, he returns for the Buckeyes. That's obviously huge to maintain that quarterback there. Well, they do lose J.K. Dobbins. They do lose K.J. Hill. They do lose Chase Young on the defensive side of the ball, among plenty of other starters. They do lose Jeff Hafley, their defensive coordinator, or co-defensive coordinator, who is now going to be the head coach at Boston College. So the Buckeyes will get a very early test in week 2 when they travel on the road to take on Oregon. But right now, this Buckeyes team was that close, and maybe some questionable calls away from playing for the national championship against LSU. All of last year, we said they were the most complete team in the country, and despite who they might be losing this year, that will remain the case once again in 2020. So they come in at number 2, right ahead of Alabama at number 3. And many who don't understand polls and don't understand, the way they work will say, why is Alabama ahead of LSU in your preseason poll? LSU won the national championship game. That is true. But Alabama, first off, they do bring back Mac Jones. Yes, they lose Tua Tagovailoa. Yes, they're going to lose Jerry Jeudy. But Mac Jones, I thought, did a pretty dang good job filling in for one of the better quarterbacks in the entire nation these past 2 seasons. It's a very huge shoes to fill. Mac Jones, I thought, did a fine job of that. He gets Devontae Smith back at wide receiver. He gets Jalen Waddle back at wide receiver. And Najee Harris decided to return, kind of like Travis Etienne, for another year with the Crimson Tide. You take that offensive firepower, pair it with what should be a more healthy defense led by Dylan Moses, who was out this entire 2019 season. Alabama should once again return to dominance, if you even want to call it a return, in 2020. And we've got them ahead of LSU, guys, a team that won their first national title since 2007, but lost so much in the offseason. And we knew that was coming from the players, just maybe not from the coaches. We knew that they were going to lose Joe Burrow. We did not lose that they were going to lose Dave Aranda to the head coaching job at Baylor. We did not know that we were going to lose Joe Brady back to the NFL to join Matt Rule's staff with the Carolina Panthers. So that is obviously major losses, along with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, their running back who they will lose, Justin Jefferson, a phenomenal wide receiver, and Grant Delpit, among other starters defensively that LSU has lost from that national championship team that we saw just a few weeks ago. They will bring in Miles Brennan, though. Jamar Chase will return, the Biletnikoff winner, staying in Death Valley. So even though LSU has lost so much, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be just fine. They're still going to be one of the better teams in the entire SEC and the nation. That's why we've got them at 4. They just don't have enough right now to be up there at number 1. Also keep in mind that they just hired Bo Pelini, the former Nebraska head coach and also now former Youngstown State head coach of the FCS, back as defensive coordinator where he served from 2005 to 2007. So that right there, phenomenal hire by Ed Ogeron to fill in for Dave Aranda. I'm expecting big things out of Pelini down in Death Valley in 2020. We got Georgia and Florida at 5 and 6. So if you look, guys, we've got 4 SEC teams lined up. 3, 4, 5, and 6 all are SEC teams. Georgia, plain and simple, Jamie Newman is the key. Jamie Newman is the key. Great that the Bulldogs are able to get him in the transfer portal coming over from Wake Forest. That might just be the spark on offense that Georgia needed. A team that was so kind of mediocre and so predictable offensively with Jake Fromm this past season. Jamie Newman comes in, is a proven winner in the ACC with the Demon Deacons, and also gives Georgia a dual threat ability at quarterback to go along with a solid core of wide receivers and an always dominant ground game. So, huge things ahead for Georgia. The question is going to be who wins the East. Will it be Georgia, who we have at 5, or will it be Florida, who we have at 6? And some people will say Florida's way too high on this list. Once again, people that say that don't exactly know what they're talking about. Because all you have to do is look at what Dan Mullen has done in the past 2 seasons to see that he is building something down in Gainesville, and sooner or later he's going to win the SEC, and he might win a national championship with the Gators. He has another double-digit win season. He has yet another New Year's 6 bowl win, beating Virginia in the Orange Bowl. The defense is going to be a major strength and the key for Florida this year. They return Marco Wilson. They return Kyrie Lamb. They've got Brenton Cox, who came over from Georgia. So a lot of players returning for this Florida team, along with Kyle Trask, their quarterback, finding some stability there. The Gators are going to be a very tough out for any team they face this season. And as always, that matchup against Georgia will more than likely determine who wins the SEC East. Penn State at 7. They return Sean Clifford, Journey Brown, Pat Fryermuth, Micah Parsons on the defensive side of the ball. We say it every year, but if James Franklin wants to make the playoffs with the Nittany Lions, this has to be the year to do it. This has to be the year for the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley. If they do not get to the playoff this year, then I don't know if they ever will. The schedule lines up great for them. They're hosting Iowa. They're hosting Ohio State. The major competitions they have are coming to Happy Valley. Tough road game against Virginia Tech might be one of the major trip-ups there. They lose KJ Hamler at wide receiver. That's a big loss. But otherwise, Penn State, absolutely a top 10 team. This year is really playoff or bust for the Nittany Lions. Oklahoma got them down at number 8. Jalen Hurts is out. Spencer Rattler's in. No problem. Oklahoma's been cycling through quarterbacks these past few years and have done just fine. They continue to make the college football playoff. The defense is improving yet again. That's kind of been a bit of a struggle for Oklahoma in the recent years, but 2019 showed that they actually know how to play some defense, and they also have Trey Sermon and Kennedy Brooks returning in the backfield. So that could take a little bit of an edge off of Spencer Rattler, this brand new quarterback. But I don't really expect them to have any growing pains. I really expect this Oklahoma offense to continue clicking at the same pace they have these past few seasons, and once again being the team to beat in the Big 12. They come in at number 8. We've got Oregon here at number 9, the Rose Bowl champions in that thriller against Wisconsin. The biggest question for Oregon right now is who's going to be at quarterback. They lose Justin Herbert. They lose 4 offensive linemen. They had one of the best in the entire nation last year. Now they're going to have to rebuild. So who's going to be at quarterback for Oregon? For the first part of the season, you're probably going to see the Ducks rely on their running game with C.J. Verdell and Troy Dye. And you're going to have to see them rely on their defense as well. Mario Cristobal has quietly put together one of the better and more complete defenses in the entire country. And you will get a great opportunity to see how good Oregon really is, and if you should take them seriously as a playoff contender by week 2 when the Ohio State Buckeyes roll to town at Autzen Stadium. So Oregon, absolutely a top 10 team absolutely a team you need to take seriously in the Pac-12. They're the reigning Pac-12 champs. But the quarterback issue is going to be the biggest difference maker on whether or not the Ducks can get to the college football playoff or whether they're still just a Rose Bowl team. And then rounding out our top 10, we'll whip through the rest of them rather quickly. Rounding out our top 10 is Notre Dame. They would not be in the top 10 right now if it were not for the return of Ian Book. If Ian Book does not come back to South Bend, Notre Dame is not in the top 10. They're ranked, they're just not here. But Ian Book coming back gives Notre Dame a chance at the college football playoff. Notre Dame needed that quarterback there. He has been phenomenal in his 2 years as starter for the Fighting Irish, and I would expect nothing less in 2020. He loses some key members of his wide receiver core, Claypool and Fink. They lose some major starters in the secondary as well. But as long as Ian Book is there, the Fighting Irish have a fighting chance, although their schedule is much more difficult this year. A game in Ireland against Navy, a game at Lambeau Field against Wisconsin, Clemson, Louisville, USC, all on the schedule for Notre Dame. So you can't really give the Fighting Irish much crap this year about their weakness of schedule because it is not even close to that in 2020. Coming in at number 11, we have Oklahoma State. And the reason I want to address this one, we'll probably skip over a few, but the reason I want to address the Cowboys here is because I think many will say they're too high. They're going to look at this list and they're going to say, Oklahoma State? Are you kidding me? Team that lost the Texas Bowl to Texas A&M? Mediocre these past few years, you got up at number 11? Absolutely I do. The Cowboys could very well be the second best team in the Big 12 in 2020 if they can stay healthy. Spencer Sanders was clicking at the end of 2019 before he went out with that thumb injury. Chuba Hubbard, like Travis Etienne, surprised a lot of people by coming back for another year. Tylan Wallace was one of the best receivers in the nation and in the Big 12 before he went down with an injury. If all those three players, the big three for Oklahoma State, stay healthy, they're going to be almost impossible to stop offensively. Defensively, they return a lot of starters, maybe 10 starters back on the defensive side of the ball. These Cowboys should be taken seriously. These Cowboys could look like the Cowboys of old, the ones that nearly made the national championship back in 2010, 2011. That type of Oklahoma State under Mike Gundy. I expect to see the same type of team in 2020 as long as they can stay healthy. So yes, this Cowboys team is one you need to take seriously both in the Big 12 and on the national stage, and that's why we got up as high as number 11. Auburn, Texas A&M coming in at 12 and 13. Both teams that are going to be receiving a lot of hype coming into this 2020 season. Texas A&M, schedule is not as difficult as it was in 2019, so hopefully they can get above that 8-win limit. Hopefully they can win 9, maybe 10 games, maybe contend for that SEC West crown. They do get to host LSU this year. Auburn, can Bo Nix take some steps forward? Chad Morris, the former Arkansas coach, steps in as offensive coordinator. Can he see Bo Nix grow up a little bit for a team that has a lot of returning starters offensively? Jatavius Whitlow should be back at running back. Their top 3 pass catchers should be back as well. If they can get that offense rolling the way Gus Malzahn likes it and the way Chad Morris supposedly likes it, then they could be an absolute threat in the SEC West once again. Keep in mind, they did knock off Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, 3 straight Big Ten schools going 14, 15, 16. We've got Minnesota up here at number 14, and some might think that's rather high. I don't think it is. I look at Minnesota, look at the way they finished 2019 by upsetting Auburn in that Outback Bowl. And while they do lose some big-time starters like Tyler Johnson and Rodney Smith on the offensive side of the ball, Tanner Morgan is back, their quarterback. And they've got great wide receivers, Rashad Bateman and Ottman Bell. So you've got Bateman, Ottman Bell, Morgan, big 3 on the offensive side of the ball. You've got a defense that loses a lot of starters, yes, but played extremely well in 2019, and PJ Fleck's teams usually boast fairly solid defenses. I don't like having them down at 20. I like having them in the top 15. The Golden Gophers need to be taken seriously once again. People may have slept on them in 2019. They're not going to do that in 2020. Cincinnati right now we have as the highest ranked group of 5 school, but right behind them is Memphis at number 19. Cincinnati, they return a lot of key starters. They recorded their second straight season with 11 wins. Desmond Ridder, their quarterback, is back in 2020. They're going to have about 15 starters returning in total. Luke Fickell somehow remained at Cincinnati, did not get taken away to a Power 5 job. And right now, I think the American Athletic Conference is Cincinnati or Memphis's to lose. Obviously, the 2 teams that met in the American Athletic Conference championship game. the Tigers going 12-2, making the Cotton Bowl. Ryan Silverfield takes over for Mike Norvell, but returns Brady White, DeMonte Coxey, and Kenneth Gainwell, their big three on the offensive side of the ball as well. And as we know, you need offense to compete in the American Athletic Conference, and Memphis may as well have the best in that entire conference. So watch out for those two guys. I have a very good feeling those could be the top two teams battling it out for that New Year's Six bowl spot come 2020. You look through there, we've got Baylor coming in at number 18. Dave Aranda takes over. Matt Rule gone. Dave Aranda steps in. Just because they lose some key starters, just because they lose their coach and practically their entire coaching staff, does not mean that the Bears should not be ranked. Does not mean we should take anything away from Baylor's 11-3 record in 2019. Just because they lost a lot, Dave Aranda is one of the best defensive minds in all of college football, and I don't expect to see Baylor take much of a step back in 2020. They're still going to be toughing out in the Big 12. You know, Texas, Oklahoma State, probably going to be their most difficult test. If they can win at least two of those, you might be talking about the Bears once again being in college football playoff discussion. Rounding out our top 25, we've got North Carolina in at 20. The return of the MAC was very, very successful. Ridiculously successful, actually. 7-6 in his first year, but all 6 of those losses coming by 7 points or less. So in his first year, he could have had the Tar Heels in a position to contend for the ACC title and maybe the college football playoff if they're able to win some of those games. Sam Howell in his first year sets a record 38 touchdowns thrown, and the Tar Heels guys, I don't mean to freak you out, but are returning like 19 starters in 2020. They're going to be one of the most experienced and explosive teams in the ACC, probably going to be the favorite to win the Coastal Division. The biggest question is, can they have enough to upset Clemson if they get there in the ACC title game? Keep in mind, they only lost to the Tigers 21-20 last year in the regular season. Iowa State coming in at 21. They retain Matt Campbell, and in Purdy, we trust. As long as Brock Purdy is there, the Cyclones have a fighting chance in the Big 12. They lose some big-time wide receivers, but Breece Hall is back at running back. You've got Charlie Kolar, one of the best tight ends in the entire Big 12. I'm not too worried about what's going down in Ames this year. Disappointing 2019 for some, especially a disappointing bowl performance, but Iowa State still a team that you need to take seriously as long as Matt Campbell and Brock Purdy are there. Right behind them, you've got Boise State. Once again, another group of 5 team you want to watch out for. And then Texas, Tennessee, typical teams that usually make the top 25. Tennessee cracking the top 25 this year just because of that 1-4 start that turned into an 8-5 finish. They finished strong. They have a lot of returning starters in 2020. Jeremy Pruitt in for a big 2020 season. Make or break, in my opinion. Cannot afford to have a major disappointing one. I did not forget Louisville. Those of you that thought I did, I was saving them for last. Why Louisville? A team that kind of like Oklahoma State, I'm sure many are thinking, why are they ranked? Why are they in the top 25? And if they are, why are they 23rd and not 25th? Once again, I want people to realize, keep in mind what Scott Satterfield did in his first year with the Cardinals, taking over a 2-10 abysmal football program and transforming them to an 8-5 program, earning a win in the Music City Bowl over Mississippi State. They're going to have 8 returning starters on offense, which is where they thrived this past season. Mikhail Cunningham, Javian Hawkins, Tutu Atwell, and they got 5 of their top 6 returning tacklers coming back in 2020. This Louisville team is legit, guys. So the ACC might be on the upward trend. Clemson, top best of the best, but North Carolina is getting better. Louisville's getting better. Virginia was solid. Miami with De'Aaron King maybe can make a little bit of noise. Maybe Florida State under Mike Norvell can make a little bit of noise. But Louisville, you can't take away anything what Scott Satterfield did in 2019. His first year, improving a team's win total by 6 games, half a season. That's unbelievable. And with the amount of returning starters they have, with the amount of momentum that they're carrying into the season, I had to rank the Cardinals at 23rd. They're legit, and if you have them on your schedule this season, you need to be scared. So guys, there you have it. Our way too early top 25 poll. I know it was a long video, but if you sat through all of it, I think we can all agree it was worth it. We've got analysis on all 25 of these teams. Once again, leave in the comments who you think should be in it. Who's too high? Who's too low? Who should not be ranked and who should be ranked that's not listed here? We want to hear from you. We want to get some discussion and debate going on here at the Gridiron Expert. So leave that down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. Check out everything in the description as well. If you like this video, you're going to love what we have for you in the upcoming weeks, and especially what we have for you in this 2020 season. So check out all the offers and content in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.